Is this the last generation of people that are going to know what it was like before this illusion took place?
Welcome to WatchMojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the most dystopian things that have happened since the year 2000.
Despite existing pledges, greenhouse gas emissions are still set to rise by 16% from 2010 levels by 2030.
Number 20. Censorship and internet shutdowns.
It's no secret that China doesn't shy away from a bit of censorship, whether it be music, Hollywood blockbusters, or even live TV.
In an era where information is readily available at our fingertips, censorship and internet shutdowns have become increasingly prevalent, especially in countries where the governing body wants to keep information limited. China has long controlled online content with its controversial Great Firewall, but more governments are following suit, shutting down access during protests or silencing dissenting opinions. There have been dozens of shutdowns in 2024 alone, with countries like Sudan, India, and Iran engaging in some type of national online censorship.
There could be a range of punishments, including the intermediaries such as Facebook or Twitter, could be liable themselves for the content that's posted on these websites. Now, that's a very worrying development.
This type of regulation brings 1984 to mind, where information is strictly regulated and controlled by an omnipotent state.
Is the freedom to say 2 + 2 = 4. If that is granted, all else follows.
Number 19. Corporate greed.
With these policies, the companies that buy these want the employees to die in accordance with the policy projections. You are more valuable dead to a company than alive.
Hating on corporations is certainly nothing new, but it seems like the problem is only getting worse and worse. The profit motive posits that a business's sole goal is to make money and increase its net worth. And this philosophy has faced intense criticism in recent years. The endless pursuit of wealth often leads to exploitation of workers, disregard for human rights, destruction of natural resources, and widening economic inequality.
Customers will note that there is almost an exact price matching among all major so-called competitors, because they're not really competing.
Whether it's pharmaceutical companies hiking the prices of life-saving drugs or tech giants profiting off personal data, corporate greed has become an emblematic issue of our times. The poet Shelley said it best: the rich get richer and the poor get poorer.
We have never seen in this country the level of corporate greed that we are seeing right now. Unprecedented.
Number 18. The Flint water crisis.
I noticed that the water was brown all the time, or that we were always getting rashes, and I don't know, it was like the water was just messing our skin up big time.
Unless you work in the sector, you likely have no idea how water gets to your house. You just trust that the pipes work and that the water is clean. It's one of those really nice things about living in the 21st century. But then the Flint water crisis threw those comforts into question. The crisis unfolded when the city of Flint, Michigan switched its water source to save money, but ended up poisoning its residents with lead.
In other words, they were willing to wait a year to see whether the water was safe. All the while, highly corrosive river water flowed through the city's lead pipes, leaching lead and other dangerous metals into the water supply.
The government's negligence led to widespread health issues among residents, including developmental delays in children and an increase in lead-related illnesses, including 12 deaths from Legionnaire's disease. It is a stark reminder that even basic needs are not guaranteed under incompetent leadership.
What about the settlement itself? I know you were not happy with the settlement.
What settlement?
Number 17. The 2019-2020 Australian bushfires.
Karina, I should let you know that just as we go to air tonight in the eastern states, we're feeling a few drops of rain falling here at the Beaker Showground. Not a lot, not enough probably to get excited about, but significant nonetheless.
Between June 2019 and May 2020, much of Southeast Australia experienced what is now called the Black Summer. The country was facing exceptionally dry conditions owing to an intense heat wave exacerbated by climate change, allowing the initial fires to quickly spread across the region.
When I took off from home, I could hear it. The power of the heat wave off it. I thought I was going to melt.
After months of uncontrolled flames, over 3,000 homes were destroyed, hundreds of people were dead, and some endangered animals were even driven to complete extinction. It was a direct confrontation with how climate change can ravage our world indiscriminately, and the visuals were like something out of an apocalyptic film.
I spend most of my nights laying in bed working out the best plan of attack, how we can get people back up and going and back on their feet again.
Number 16, the Facebook Cambridge Analytica scandal.
If you've messaged anybody this week, would you share with us the names of the people you've messaged?
Senator, no, I would probably not choose to do that publicly here.
A consulting firm steals the personal information of internet users and then sells that information to political parties hoping to sway elections. It sounds like the blurb on the back of a dystopian novel, but it's the sad reality we all face. Cambridge Analytica stole 87 million Facebook profiles and then sold this personal information to the presidential campaigns of Ted Cruz and Donald Trump.
They had profiles from numerous data sets on more than 230 million Americans. Or so Cambridge Analytica boast.
It revealed the extent to which personal data is being harvested and exploited, not to mention exposing how social media platforms can be used to manipulate public opinion, influence elections, and erode privacy rights. Facebook was fined $5 billion for the infraction, but something tells us this type of data misuse will continue unabated.
And when you think about what is democracy and what is necessary for a functioning democracy, we need to at least have agreement on what is real.
Number 15, targeted ads.
It may seem like they're listening to us, but it's just because they have so much information on us that they don't need to listen to us.
You're making dinner one beautiful evening and tell your partner how nice it would be to go camping this summer. That night, you're scrolling through your phone in bed, and what do you see? Ads for tents and portable barbecues. This unnerving experience has become commonplace, with personalized marketing seeing a significant increase with the advent of social algorithms. No matter how helpful it may seem, after all, maybe we do need that tent, many people find these types of targeted ads to be incredibly creepy, not to mention dystopian. It's a reality we only once imagined within the confines of science fiction, stories about invasive technology and the ways it slowly encroaches on our personal lives.
I don't have any shoes to go with it.
Did you say shoes?
No!
Number 14, the opioid epidemic.
For about a year now, there's been this mobile clinic coming to this neighborhood because so many people here have terrible skin-rotting wounds from the drug.
In many dystopian stories, the general citizenry is in the throes of addiction and subjected to the dangerous whims of a specific drug. In reality, those drugs are opioids, and they are becoming a terrible problem. While the epidemic technically began in the late 90s, the rate of opioid deaths has skyrocketed in recent years, virtually doubling between 2016 and 2022.
Testing is paramount to be able to better support people who are using the substances, and funding for those initiatives are really, really important in the work that we do.
Over 80,000 Americans died of an opioid overdose in 2022, and countless more in other countries. The primary drug of choice is fentanyl, which recently overtook heroin as the leading cause of drug overdose deaths in the United States.
Fentanyl is a drug that is very good at managing pain. The day when they prescribed that, it changed everything for me.
Number 13, North Korea's human rights abuses.
North Korea tells its citizens many defectors are actually abduction victims, taken by the enemy, forced to betray their homeland.
It's horrifying to think that there are countries like North Korea operating in the 21st century. The Asian country is a living dystopia, with the government enacting widespread human rights violations on a daily basis. From forced labor camps to political repression and mass surveillance, the regime maintains complete control over its citizenry.
저는 조선과 미국 사이의 관계가 좋지 못한 데 대해서 유감스럽게 생각합니다. 그러나 조선과 조선 인민은 저의 친구이며 저는 경애하는 원수님을 저의 친근한 보시라고 생각합니다. 감사합니다.
They have since used the COVID pandemic as a pretext for these measures, with strict border and travel restrictions put in place to prevent escape. With a complete lack of expression, mass censorship, and even an inability to move provinces, there are virtually no personal freedoms to be found in North Korea.
We are now in an accountability stage.
The Commission of Inquiry did recommend that the Democratic People's Republic of Korea be referred to the ICC.
Number 12, the rise of hate speech and extremist violence.
We're loud and proud. We're not going anywhere. We are an American organization, and our membership represents this.
The internet allows both the good and the bad to flourish, and that includes a significant rise in hate speech. It's believed that 1 in 3 internet users have been targeted by some type of hate speech, and this problem shows no sign of slowing. In fact, it's only getting worse. According to one study, the use of hate speech on Twitter nearly doubled after Elon Musk purchased the site in 2022.
The idea was that trolls should come to the platform and post racist content as proof that Elon was now allowing racism in a way that the previous administration didn't.
It's terrible to imagine, but online platforms have become breeding grounds for hate groups who use social media as a tool for spreading their ideologies. This danger has even seeped into the quote-unquote real world, with terrible acts of extremist violence occurring in cities like El Paso and Colorado Springs.
He says the gunman walked through the door, shooting. Seconds later, Fierro pouncing.
His back was turned. Yeah, I pulled him down.
Number 11, the housing crisis.
Home is such an indescribable, thing, but realistically, you might not even get the privilege to own your own home at all.
Everyone wants a stable shelter, but that's becoming increasingly difficult to obtain. Many countries are currently experiencing a severe housing crisis, with many people being unable to afford or even find shelter. Property prices have skyrocketed in recent years, and wages have remained frustratingly stagnant. And this lack of affordable housing has left many people unable to find suitable accommodation.
The Department of Housing and Urban Development says President Biden's American Rescue Plan has helped more than 50,000 people experiencing homelessness, but acknowledges more work must be done.
For example, in Canada, a Torontonian needs to earn a minimum of $217,000 a year to own a home, about 5 times the country's median income of $41,000. Entire generations are being priced out of homes, condos, and even apartments, illustrating profound inequality reminiscent of certain dystopian narratives.
And this building, actually, so it's called the Royal George Apartments. It was built in 1911. A year later, in 1912, Toronto passed a law essentially banning the construction of apartment buildings.
Number 10, phone and social media addiction.
Of course, they look at what you've liked and commented on in the past, but they also look at a whole range of other factors like dwell time, so how long you spend looking at a particular piece of content in your feed.
It's a visual straight out of a dystopian movie, people glued to a small device they hold in their hand and store in their pocket. The widespread use of smartphones has given rise to a new form of addiction that we couldn't have predicted even 20 years ago. People are becoming increasingly dependent on their devices for validation, social connection, and entertainment, and it's leading to a significant mental health crisis, especially in teens.
Favorite app?
I'd probably say like TikTok.
TikTok.
Instagram.
Yeah, Instagram.
Ah, we have a divide.
According to the University of Michigan, over 200 million people are addicted to social media, and nearly half of all addicted Americans are between the ages of 18 and 22. Perhaps even more shocking, the average teen spends over 7 hours a day on their phone.
We're training and conditioning a whole new generation of people that when we are uncomfortable or lonely or uncertain or afraid, we have a digital pacifier for ourselves.
Number 9, political polarization.
I'm just saying. Just what? Well, you're American, okay? Okay. What kind of American are you?
Of course, politics are meant to be polarizing, with many countries often led by 2 rotating parties with different ideological beliefs. But that's not what we're talking about here. Political polarization has become increasingly pronounced in recent years as societies become more divided along ideological lines. According to the Pew Research Center, quote, very unfavorable opinions of the opposite party are currently at record highs.
The coverage of the protests really fell into the template that media have always used for protests, which typically is media frame it as a clash between order and chaos.
This type of intense division hampers constructive dialogue and fosters hostility between different social groups. And this hostility has the potential to snowball into more extreme acts, including physical violence. Echo chambers reinforce opinions and beliefs, and nothing constructive is accomplished.
The more we do something for others, the less it'll be about my stand in what I think.
Number 8, the rise of misinformation.
When it comes to fighting trolls with clear intentions of spreading false information, it gets a bit more challenging.
That was seen in a number of different ways ahead of the 2018 U.S. midterm election.
Correct information is a very valuable resource for a functioning society. It's no wonder that most of the classic pieces of dystopia, including 1984, include some type of disinformation campaign. Say it with us. Oceania had always been at war with East Asia.
Oceania is at war with East Asia. Oceania has always been at war with East Asia.
In an era of information overload and digital media consumption, disinformation has become a pervasive issue. The spread of false or misleading facts has eroded trust in the information we receive, and fake news was a massive talking point during the infamous 2016 presidential election. Pew Research even shared a report claiming that 1 in 4 Americans have spread a piece of misinformation online. The results could be catastrophic.
Can you give us a question?
Don't be rude. No, I'm not going to give you a question. I'm not going to give you a question.
Can you state categorically?
You are fake news.
Number 7. Cyber attacks.
It became very quickly a sense of not knowing what was up, what was down, were our futures secure, what was going to happen.
With new inventions come new problems. Cyber attacks were literally unfathomable even 100 years ago, and now it's a major problem around the world. There are all sorts of different cyber attacks, from simple credit card theft to massive hacking efforts. And that's not to mention cyber harassment, which about half of all teens have admitted to doing. Sophisticated hacking attempts have become commonplace, including the Ashley Madison breach that ruined lives, and the famous Sony hack of 2014.
And then over here we have basically the Sony hack.
Not even politicians are safe. For example, Canadian members of parliament were personally targeted by Chinese hackers in 2021. These attacks compromise personal data, undermine the efforts of national security, and demonstrate the fragility of virtual data, all of which sound like key ingredients of a dystopia.
But CSIS never told the 18 Canadian MPs and senators who were coming under attack. The Canadians, in fact, just learned of these attacks last week.
Number 6. Economic inequality.
I can't wait to give this to my children. One thing it says is that wealth begets wealth. Turn 1 million into 8. Raise your hand if you want to take that deal.
Another major aspect of dystopian fiction is economic inequality. The rich live in big, fancy high-rises, and the poor live in squalor in some kind of filthy, taped-together ghetto. We're not quite there, but it's getting close. Economic inequality has reached staggering levels globally, with wealth concentrated in the hands of a few, while many struggle to meet their basic needs.
People at the top of the income ladder have gotten all the income gains that have occurred during the last 30 years. People in the middle of the income distribution, they've run down their savings, they've run up much more debt. Every conceivable margin you can work just to hold your place in the queue.
This disparity creates societal divisions along class lines, while limiting opportunities for upward mobility, not to mention a potential for social unrest. The middle class is essentially vanishing before our eyes, and much of the nation's aggregate income is going to the wealthy few.
As you can see in this neighborhood, it's not a lot of funds. So a lot of people don't have insurance to go, and if they are sick, they don't want to go to the emergency room because they don't have it to pay.
Number 5, the COVID-19 pandemic.
Look, I walk into the room, I say, hey, sounds like you have COVID. Then I might order a chest x-ray, I might order blood work, I might order catheters.
From now on, the year 2020 will be widely remembered as the year that COVID-19 spread across the world. The virus ravaged every corner of the globe, killing a reported 7 million people. The true number is likely much higher, with some estimates going as high as 30 million, making it the 5th deadliest pandemic in human history.
The problem facing health services across the world is that when the infection curve goes up, it rockets. And all the resources, all the testing, all the supplies are used up instantly.
Of course, there were also the massive ripple effects, like sending much of the world into lockdown, devastating the global economy, disrupting supply chains, and spurring a lot of conspiracy theories that only exacerbated the misinformation problem. This is a once-in-a-lifetime event that will be studied and analyzed for decades to come.
On the Canary Islands off the eastern coast of Africa, more than 1,000 tourists are trapped in a hotel because an Italian guest came down with the virus.
Number 4, extinction crisis.
And all biologists feared the unthinkable. 3/4 of all known species could disappear
in just a couple centuries.
Another aspect of classic dystopia is complete environmental collapse. And again, we are well on our way. Humans have had a terrible effect on the global environment, even causing an extinction event known as the Holocene or Anthropocene extinction. This is the 6th event of its kind in world history and is impacting all ranges of life on Earth.
Scientists have identified the key ways in which we humans are destroying the ecosystems on which we depend.
From plants and land mammals to a large variety of marine life. With humans now considered a global super predator, the event has largely been attributed to our impact on the environment, including climate change, deforestation, and overfishing. It is a stark reminder that our actions have irreparable and irreversible consequences.
1 in 3 species of all kinds face global extinction or have been driven to extinction. It's a number much higher than previous estimates and a cause for concern globally.
Number 3, climate change.
In many ways, cities magnify, intensify climate events. Cities are hotter than the places around them.
And speaking of climate change, it is undeniably one of the most alarming problems facing our world today. While many people express doubt about its authenticity, the science says that it's real and it's doing irreparable damage to our one and only planet.
Dramatic changes. These are the same kinds of pools that formed here on this ice shelf in Antarctica.
This isn't a future problem either. The consequences are already being observed, like more devastating forest fires, melting ice sheets, expanding deserts, more intense storms, the extinction of animals, and skyrocketing global temperatures. Should we go on? Suffice it to say, the problems are only going to get worse unless the problem is immediately addressed. And unfortunately, we don't seem to be going in the right direction.
It just feels like we're just getting kicked around all the time, right? And that's where I would say there is tremendous things to be done.
Number 2, surveillance state.
What happens in a mass surveillance regime, you sweep up essentially everybody. Everybody, by definition, becomes a target, which means there's no target.
Nothing screams 1984 more than the government spying on your every move. Big Brother represents the oppressive nature of totalitarian regimes, spying on the general populace and not allowing them to have dissenting opinions. As we sadly learned throughout this century, our individual freedoms are currently at risk thanks to a global surveillance program that includes governments, the NSA, and an intelligence alliance known as Five Eyes.
While funding to the Five Eyes Alliance has dramatically increased since the beginning of the 21st century, the agencies continue to remain largely autonomous from the governments who fund them.
Five Eyes certainly has a dystopian ring to it, and they have access to the personal data of millions across the globe. Some have criticized the media's handling of the story and allege that the truth is less sensational, but that doesn't really matter. The point is that this technology exists, and that is more than scary enough.
The Prime Minister's extremely concerned about this, and they kept saying this is from the very top.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1, the rise of artificial intelligence. It's amazing how quickly AI entered into the cultural discourse. Of course, artificial intelligence has long been the subject of fiction and philosophy, but it was mostly relegated to the realm of science fiction. But ever since the rise of ChatGPT, people are realizing that this science fiction is not so fictional anymore.
It's thinking, usually takes about a second to respond. I am an AI language model developed by OpenAI. I was trained on a large data set of text, and I'm designed to respond to questions and engage in conversation.
It can already write articles, do advanced math, and draw pictures. What will it be able to do in 5 years? 10. What impact will this have on the global infrastructure? Most importantly, when will it go full Terminator and become self-aware? These are the questions currently terrorizing much of the world, and unfortunately, there are no easy answers.
My friend Yann LeCun thinks it's perfectly safe. We'll always be in control because we built them. I don't really believe that.
Do you think we're living in a dystopia? Let us know in the comments below. Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.